It was the killer humans who showed up to help. The first warning came too late. By the time the signal reached the outer listening stations, the skies over the planet Valara were already burning. Long lines of fire crossed the clouds as enemy ships cut through orbit. Cities glowed bright, then dark, one by one. The people of Valara had believed they were safe. They had trusted treaties and old promises. Now those promises meant nothing. The Valaran Union was small and gentle. Their people valued trade, learning, and peace. War was something they studied in history halls, not something they practiced. When the Iron Dominion arrived, the Valarans tried to speak. They sent open messages. They asked for talks. The Dominion answered with guns. Council Elder Selen watched the burning world from the chamber window. His thin hand shook as he held the rail. Below him, the capital city was in chaos. Ships tried to flee but were torn apart. Defense platforms failed one after another. "Send the final call," Saluan said quietly. The council members turned to him. Some looked afraid. Some looked ashamed. "To everyone?" one asked. Saluan nodded. "To everyone." Even them. The word them carried weight. Humans. For generations, the galaxy spoke of humans in low voices. Stories painted them as killers, survivors of endless wars. Records showed broken worlds, burned fleets, and hard soldiers who never stopped fighting. Humans were said to help only when profit or revenge waited at the end. The Valaran Union had avoided them. They traded around human space. They taught their children to fear the name, but now there was no one else left to ask. The signal was sent, a simple message, a cry for help. Then the council waited. Hours passed. The Dominion forces pushed deeper. Ground troops landed near the capital. Valaran defenders fell back again and again. Their weapons were weak, their armor thin. Saloon prepared himself for silence. Then the sensor screamed. Unknown ships had entered the system. They did not match Dominion design. They were not Valaran. Their shapes were sharp and dark, like blades cutting through space. Their engines burned cold blue. Fear spread through the council chamber. "They are here," one whispered. "The humans are here." On the bridge of the lead human ship, Jack Morris stood with his hands behind his back. He was tall, with tired eyes and short dark hair. Scars marked his face and neck. He studied the battle display without speaking. Around him, the bridge crew worked in calm silence. Lisa Grant sat at the command console, her fingers moving fast. She had sharp eyes and a steady voice. Amy Turner checked medical readiness, already planning for casualties. Ethan Brooks watched the enemy fleet, jaw tight. "Valaran defenses are failing," Lisa said. "They will lose the capital in less than 2 hours." Jack nodded. "Any sign they can hold longer?" "No." Jack looked at the main screen. Valara was beautiful even now. Blue and green beneath fire. He exhaled slowly. "Open a channel to the council," he said. The Valaran council nearly panicked when the message request appeared. The human signal code was old, known only from archives. Salan forced himself to stand straight. The image formed. A human male filled the air. His face was hard, unreadable. His eyes were not cruel, but they were heavy with something the Valarans could not name. "This is Jack Morris of the Human Response Fleet," he said. His voice was calm and low. "We received your call," Saluan swallowed. "We did not expect you to answer." Jack tilted his head slightly. "Neither did we expect you to call." Silence followed. Distant explosions shook the chamber. Saloon found his voice. "We are under attack. The Iron Dominion is destroying our world. If you have come for conquest, then do it quickly." A small movement passed across Jack's face. Not anger. Not joy. "We did not come to conquer," Jack said. "We came to help." The words felt unreal. One council member shouted, "We know your kind." "You are killers." Jack did not deny it. "Yes," he said, "we are very good at killing." That is why we are here. The channel closed before Saloon could respond. Fear and confusion filled the chamber. No one knew if this was salvation or the end. In orbit, the human fleet moved. Human ships spread out with sharp precision. Smaller craft rushed forward, drawing enemy fire. Heavy ships charged straight into the Dominion line, weapons powered up, humming with contained force. Ethan leaned forward. "Enemy targeting us." Jack's voice did not change.
Let them. The first human strike hit like thunder. A Dominion cruiser vanished in white light.
Another broke apart as its shield collapsed. Human weapons did not waste shots. Every strike was clean, final. Valoran defenders watched in shock as enemy ships fell back for the first time since the invasion began. On the ground, Dominion troops advanced through ruined streets. Valoran soldiers tried to hold a broken line near a hospital dome. Their commander prepared for retreat. Then the sky screamed. Human dropships cut through smoke and fire. They landed hard, doors already opening. Armored figures poured out, moving fast and low. Their armor was dark, marked with simple symbols. Jack's boots hit the ground last. He raised his hand and his team spread out. "Secure the civilians first," he said. "No losses if we can help it." Amy moved at once, dragging injured Velarans to cover. She spoke softly, even though they could not understand her words. Her hands were gentle, her eyes focused. Lisa coordinated air support from above, calling strikes only when civilians were clear. The humans fought with speed and control. They did not shout. They did not boast. They advanced step by step, pushing the Dominion forces back. A Valoran soldier watched Jack take down an enemy twice his size. Jack moved like this was normal, like he had done it 1,000 times before. Maybe he had. When the line finally stabilized, the Valoran soldier realized something strange. The humans were bleeding. Their armor was strong, but not perfect. They fell, got back up, and kept fighting. They did not retreat even when wounded. They covered Valaran positions with their own bodies. The battle raged into the night. By dawn, the capital still stood. Smoke rose over broken streets. Fires burned, but they were controlled now. Dominion forces had pulled back to regroup. Solon walked among the ruins with shaking legs. He saw human medics treating Valoran children. He saw human soldiers standing guard beside exhausted Valoran troops. He found Jack near a damaged tower watching the horizon. "You saved us," Selûne said. Jack did not look proud. "Not yet," he replied. "This was only the first day." Selûne studied the human commander. "Why did you come?" Jack was quiet for a moment. "Because once," he said, "no one came for us." Above them, human ships held the sky. And for the first time since the invasion began, the people of Valara felt something close to hope. The night after the first battle was long and uneasy. Fires still burned across the capital. Smoke hung low, turning the sky a dull gray. Valoran civilians hid in shelters, afraid the enemy would return at any moment. The sound of distant guns never fully stopped. Human soldiers worked through the ruins without rest. Jack moved from position to position, checking lines and speaking with both human and Valoran commanders. His face showed no sign of the long hours. Only his eyes carried the weight of the day. Lisa stayed in orbit, guiding ships and watching enemy movement. She tracked every signal, every shadow. The Iron Dominion fleet had pulled back, but not far. They were waiting. Amy walked through a temporary shelter built inside a broken transit hall. Injured Velarans lay on simple beds. Human medics worked beside Valoran healers, sharing tools and gestures when words failed. Amy knelt beside a small Valoran child who clutched a cracked light toy. The child watched her with wide eyes. "It's okay," Amy said softly, even though she knew the words meant nothing. She smiled and adjusted the bandage on the child's arm. The child slowly relaxed. Near the outer defense line, Ethan stood with a group of human soldiers. They watched the dark horizon where enemy forces had vanished. "They will come again," one soldier said. Ethan nodded, harder than before. The humans knew this pattern well. Enemies always returned when wounded, pride demanded it. Inside the council chamber, Saloon gathered the remaining elders. The chamber was damaged, one wall cracked by an explosion. Emergency lights cast long shadows. "The humans saved us today," one elder said. "But what happens when they leave? Or what if they stay?" another replied. Fear and hope mixed together. Saloon raised his hand. "We asked for help." "Ah!" they answered. "Now we must decide if we trust them." The next morning the Iron Dominion attacked again. This time, they did not test defenses. They struck with full force. Enemy ships dropped from warp across the system. Their numbers were greater than before. Heavy carriers led the charge, supported by long-range artillery ships. Lisa saw it first. "They are all in," she said over the channel. "This is the main assault." Jack stood in the command post below. "Then we end it," he replied. Human ships moved to meet the attack, space filled with light and fire. Dominion weapons tore into human shields. Explosions shook the void. Smaller human craft darted between enemy lines, striking weak points and vanishing. Ethan flew one of those ships. His hands were steady on the controls. Alarms screamed around him, but his focus never broke.
"Enemy lock," he said calmly. "Break left," Lisa answered. "Use the debris field." Ethan rolled his ship hard, skimming past the remains of a shattered cruiser.
Enemy fire missed by meters. "Got them," he said, firing. The enemy fighter burst apart. Below, on the planet, Dominion ground forces advanced again. They pushed toward the capital with armored units and heavy walkers. Jack led the defense at the main approach. Human and Velaran soldiers fought side by side now. The fear that once kept them apart was fading, replaced by shared danger. Jack moved through the line, steady and calm. "Hold here," he told one group. "Fall back only if I say." The Dominion walkers opened fire. Buildings collapsed. The ground shook. Human heavy weapons answered. A walker fell, then another. Enemy troops charged forward. The fighting became close and brutal. Amy was pulled from the shelter when the line shifted. She followed human medics closer to the front, treating wounded under fire. She did not hesitate, even when shots struck nearby walls. A Velaran healer grabbed her arm. Fear filled his eyes. Amy met his gaze and nodded. "We're not leaving," she said. The healer seemed to understand. Hours passed like this. The enemy pressed hard, but the humans did not break. Jack fought at the front, weapons steady, movements precise. He took a hit to the shoulder but ignored it, sealing the wound and pushing on. Saloon watched the battle from a secure tower. He saw humans stand in open ground to draw fire away from fleeing civilians. He saw humans carry wounded Velarans while bleeding themselves. These were not the monsters from old stories. This was something else. In orbit, the battle turned dangerous. The Dominion brought forward a massive carrier, larger than anything before. Its weapons tore through space, disabling 2 human ships in seconds. Lisa's voice tightened. "That carrier will break our line." Ethan saw it too. "I can get close," he said.
"You won't make it back," Lisa replied. Ethan did not hesitate.
"That's okay." Jack heard the exchange over the open channel. "Ethan," he said sharply. Ethan smiled inside his cockpit. "Someone has to do it." Before Jack could answer, Ethan pushed his ship forward. Enemy fire hammered his shields. Warnings flashed red. The ship shook violently. Ethan stayed on course. He flew straight at the carrier's exposed engine section. "For Valara," he said quietly. His ship hit the carrier in a blinding flash. The explosion ripped through the enemy vessel. Its engines failed. Secondary blasts tore it apart from the inside. The carrier broke into burning fragments. The Dominion fleet hesitated. Lisa closed her eyes for 1 second. "Target destroyed," she said. Jack said nothing. His jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "All units push forward." The loss of the carrier changed everything. Human ships surged ahead, Enemy formations broke. Dominion vessels tried to retreat, but many were cut down. On the ground, enemy forces slowed, then stopped. Their command was gone. Jack raised his hand, signaling advance. Human and Valaran troops pushed the Dominion back street by street. By nightfall, the Iron Dominion was in full retreat. Silence slowly returned. The city was damaged, wounded, but alive. Human soldiers gathered their fallen. Ethan's name spread quietly through the ranks. No cheers followed, only bowed heads. Selûne approached Jack again, this time with more confidence. "You lost one of your own," Selûne said. Jack nodded. "Yes, and still you fight for us." Jack looked at the ruined city. "That is why we fight." Selûne lowered his head. "The galaxy was wrong about you." Jack did not answer. He stared up at the dark sky where enemy ships had fled. "The war is not over," he said. "But Valara will not face it alone." Above them, human ships held their positions, and the name humans once feared began to change its meaning. The Iron Dominion did not accept defeat. 3 days after their retreat, long-range sensors detected movement beyond the system edge. The signal was slow, heavy, and vast. Even before confirmation, the humans understood what it meant. The Dominion was bringing its final force. Lisa watched the data scroll across her screen. Her face stayed calm, but her hands tightened. "This is everything they have," she said. "They are not coming to win territory. They are coming to erase Valara." Jack stood beside her, silent. He had expected this. The Dominion did not forgive resistance. "How long until they arrive?" he asked. "Less than a day." On the surface, Valara struggled to breathe. The people worked beside humans to clear rubble, restore power, and strengthen defenses. Shelters were expanded. Wounded were moved underground. Every hand helped, even those who had never held a tool before. Selûne walked through the capital with a group of council members. They no longer hid behind walls. They saw fear on every face, but also something new: resolve. Human soldiers trained Valaran volunteers in basic defense. They did not speak much, but they showed by example. "Stand here. Watch that angle. Protect the person next to you." Amy moved through the shelters, exhausted but steady. Had not slept more than a few hours since the invasion began. Still, she smiled when children waved at her. They no longer looked at humans with terror. One Valaran elder took her hand and pressed it to his chest in thanks. Amy nodded, unable to find words. As the hours passed, the sky grew darker. Clouds gathered heavy and low. The wind carried distant thunder, though no storm should have formed. The Dominion fleet arrived at dawn. They came in silence. Ships filled the sky, black shapes blocking the light. Their numbers were overwhelming. Larger than any fleet the Valarans had ever imagined. Larger than anything the humans had hoped to face so soon. Lisa whispered, "They want to crush us with fear." Jack's reply was calm. "Then we don't give it to them." Human ships moved into formation, spreading wide. They did not hide behind the planet. They placed themselves between Valara and the enemy. The first shots came without warning. Space erupted. Weapons fire crossed the void in endless lines. Shields flared and failed. Ships burned. Debris rained down like metal storms. Human pilots fought with everything they had. They flew close, dangerous paths, using speed and skill to balance the enemy's greater numbers. For every human ship lost, Dominion ships fell with it. But the Dominion kept coming. On the ground, Jack prepared for the worst. Enemy drop signatures appeared across the continent. This was no longer just an invasion. It was extermination. "They will try to break the capital," Jack said to his officers. "We hold them here, no matter what." The first enemy troops landed in waves. The fighting was harder than before. Dominion soldiers were heavier, stronger, driven by orders that allowed no retreat. They pushed through fire and loss, caring nothing for survival. Human lines bent, but did not break. Jack fought at the center, directing fire, pulling wounded back, pushing fresh units forward. His earlier wound reopened, blood soaking his armor, but he ignored it. A massive explosion threw him against a wall. For a moment, everything went dark. When Jack opened his eyes, the world rang with noise. He forced himself up. One leg barely responded, but he leaned on it anyway. A young human soldier tried to stop him. "Sir, you're hurt." Jack met his eyes. So are they. He stepped back into the fight. Near the eastern sector, the enemy broke through. Dominion troops poured into a civilian zone that had not fully evacuated. Alarms screamed. Amy was there. She heard the gunfire and turned just as a group of Valorant civilians froze in panic. Without thinking, she ran. She dragged 2 children behind a broken transport and shielded them as shots struck nearby. Her heart pounded, but her hands stayed steady. Human soldiers rushed in, forcing the enemy back. One fell beside her, wounded badly. Amy worked on him under fire. Her hand shook now, but she did not stop. "Stay with me," she said, though the words were for herself as much as him. Above them, the sky burned. In orbit, the battle reached a breaking point.
The Dominion flagship appeared. It was enormous.
Larger than the carrier destroyed earlier. Its presence alone shifted the battlefield. Its weapons tore through human lines, disabling ships with terrifying ease. Lisa stared at the display. "That ship is the command core. If it stays, we lose." Jack's voice came through, strained but clear. "Can we reach it?" "Not with a normal attack." Silence followed. Then a damaged human cruiser moved forward. Its engines burned unevenly. Its hull was torn, barely holding together. The captain, a quiet man named Paul Adams, opened a channel. "I can ram it," he said. Lisa shook her head. "You won't get through the shields." Paul smiled faintly. "I don't need to." He cut the channel before anyone could stop him. The cruiser accelerated, drawing enemy fire. Its shields failed quickly. Its hull burned. Paul aimed straight at the flagship's weapon array. The impact shook space itself. The cruiser exploded, taking a massive section of the flagship with it. Secondary explosions followed. The flagship's weapons went silent. The Dominion fleet hesitated again. Jack felt the change even from the ground. Enemy fire slowed. Movements lost coordination. "Now," Jack said. "All units now." Human ships surged forward with everything they had left. Velaron defense platforms, long silent, powered up and joined the fight. Their crews fought with a courage they did not know they had. On the ground, Dominion forces began to fall back. Without command, without direction, they faltered. Jack pushed forward with his remaining strength. A heavy blast struck near him, throwing debris into the air. Something hit his chest hard. He fell, gasping, his vision blurred. He saw Velaran soldiers pulling him back. He tried to stand, but his body would not obey. "Hold the line," he whispered. They did. Hours later, the sky cleared. The Dominion fleet was broken. Some ships fled. Many were destroyed. The flagship drifted, silent and burning. On the surface, the last enemy troops were driven off or captured. The war was over. Jack woke in a medical shelter. The air was quiet. Too quiet. Amy stood nearby, her face pale but relieved. "You scared us," she said softly. Jack tried to sit up and failed. "Did we win?" She nodded. "Velara still stands." He closed his eyes for a moment. Saloon arrived soon after. He bowed deeply, a gesture of full respect. "Your people bled for us," Saloon said. "They died for us." Jack looked at the ceiling. "They chose to." "Why?" Saloon asked. Jack turned his head slightly. "Because someone once asked for help," he said. And no one came. Outside, humans and Velaran stood together among the ruins, looking at a sky no longer filled with enemies. The cost had been high. But Velara was free, and the galaxy would never forget who stood when the end came. The days after the final battle felt unreal. The sky over Velara was clear again. No enemy ships blocked the light. No alarms echoed through the streets. Only the sound of rebuilding filled the air. Machines lifted broken stone. People cleared paths where roads once stood. Life moved forward, slow but steady. Humans did not leave. Their ships stayed in orbit, guarding the system. On the ground, human soldiers helped where they could. They rebuilt shelters. They shared food. They stood watch so Valen families could sleep without fear. Jack spent many days in the medical shelter. His injuries were serious but not fatal. Broken ribs, damaged leg, deep wounds that would take time to heal. He hated lying still, but he obeyed Amy's orders. She watched him closely, arms crossed, daring him to argue. "You already saved the world," she said. "Now rest." Jack gave a weak smile and stayed put. News spread across Valara and beyond. Other worlds sent messages. Some were filled with thanks, others with disbelief. Many asked the same question. Why did humans help? The Voloran Council held a gathering in the open plaza of the capital. It was damaged, but repaired enough to stand. Valerans and humans gathered together under the open sky. Saloon stepped forward once. He would have spoken from behind walls and guards. Now he stood in the open, his voice steady. "For generations," Saloon said, "we believed humans were creatures of endless war. We believed they brought only destruction. We were wrong." He turned toward the human soldiers. When our end came, they answered. When our skies burned, they stood in the fire. They did not ask for payment. They did not ask for land. Murmurs spread through the crowd. "They bled for us," Saloon continued. "They died for us. And they stayed." Human soldiers stood quietly. Some looked uncomfortable. Praise was not something they expected. Jack watched from a raised platform supported by a brace. Amy stood nearby. Lisa had joined them from orbit, her face tired but calm. Saloon raised a small device. It projected images into the air. Faces of fallen humans appeared, names spoken softly. Among them was Ethan. The crowd fell silent. Saloon bowed deeply. "Valara will remember," he said. "We will teach our children the truth." After the gathering, Valaran workers began building memorials. Not grand statues, but simple stones with names carved carefully. Humans helped carve them. One Valoran child asked a human soldier why they fought so hard. The soldier thought for a long time, then answered simply, "Because we know what it is like to lose everything." Slowly, trade ships returned. Communication lines reopened. The story spread through the galaxy. Worlds that once feared humans now watched them with new eyes. Some still whispered the old word, killer, but now it carried a different meaning. Jack eventually left the shelter. He walked with a limp, but he walked. Belorans greeted him openly now. Some bowed. Others simply nodded with respect. He did not like the attention. One evening he stood on a high platform overlooking the city. Lights glowed below. Not all streets were repaired, but people moved through them. Life continued. Selaluun joined him. "Our scouts report no enemy movement," Selaluun said. "The Iron Dominion has withdrawn far beyond our reach." Jack nodded. "They won't forget this." "Neither will we," Saloon replied. They stood in silence for a moment. "Will you leave?" Saloon asked. Jack looked out at the city. Human engineers worked beside Velaran builders. Children laughed near a repaired water channel. "Not yet," Jack said. "We'll help rebuild. Then we'll see." Saloon smiled. "Velara will always remember who stood with us." Time passed. Weeks turned into months. Human and Velaran teams rebuilt power grids. Schools reopened. Ships carried supplies instead of weapons. Human medics trained Velaran healers in new methods. Velaran scientists share their own knowledge in return. Trust grew slowly, but it grew. Lisa worked with the Velaran space crews, helping repair defense platforms. She taught them how to read enemy movement, how to prepare without fear. Amy stayed longer than planned. She told herself it was because there was still work to do. Maybe that was true. Jack walked the city often. He listened more than he spoke. One day a message arrived from human space. Other worlds had seen what happened at Valara. Some asked for help. Others offered alliances. The galaxy was shifting. Humans were no longer shadows at the edge of space. They were a line others could stand behind. Before the humans finally prepared to leave, the Velaran people gathered one last time. This time there were no speeches. Saloon approached Jack and placed a small symbol in his hand. It was simple, made of local stone. "A mark of our world," Saloon said. "So you will remember us." Jack closed his fingers around it. "We already will." Human ships lifted from the surface one by one. Not in a rush, not in silence. Velarans watched from below, waving in their own quiet way. Amy stood beside Jack on the command deck as Velara grew smaller on the screen. "You okay?" she asked. Jack nodded. "Yeah." The fleet turned toward open space. Behind them, Valara healed. Ahead of them, the galaxy waited. Some would still fear humans. Some always would. But now, when the end came, when hope failed, when no one else answered, there would be a story told again and again. It was the killer humans who showed up to help.